My name is Ellen Rose Whitmore. I am 84 years old, and I've lived in Colorado all my life. These mountains have seen everything I've ever been through. They watched me grow up, fall in love, lose myself, find myself again, and learn what love truly means. My story begins in the winter of 1958, when I was 18. I worked at a little lodge near Estes Park. My family didn't have much, so I cleaned rooms, chopped vegetables in the kitchen, carried firewood, anything the place needed. I didn't mind. The mountains felt more like home to me than anything else in the world. One night, during the first snowstorm of the season, everything changed. It was the kind of cold that sinks into your bones, with wind howling like it had something on its mind. I was stacking firewood inside the lobby when the doors burst open. Snow blew in, and behind it came a young man. His cheeks were red from the cold, his hair covered in snowflakes, and he looked half frozen and half amused by it. His name was Samuel Brooks. He and his friends had planned a hiking trip, but got caught in the storm. They lost the trail, barely managed to reach the lodge, and probably wouldn't have made it if they hadn't pushed through the last mile. He shook off the snow, smiled at me, and said, "Ma'am, I think winter is personally upset with me." I laughed. I hadn't laughed like that in a long time. The storm trapped everyone inside for 6 whole days. No one could leave, and no one could come in. Guests played cards by the fire, shared stories, and passed around blankets. And Samuel found some reason to talk to me every single day. We walked the hallways just to stretch our legs. We sat by the big stone fireplace and talked about books, music, dreams we didn't tell anyone else about. He wanted to see the world. I wanted to finish school and maybe become a nurse. On the 4th night, the power went out. I was carrying candles to the rooms, and he followed behind me. When I handed him a candle, our fingers touched. Just for a second, but it felt like warmth spreading through my whole chest. He didn't kiss me. He didn't even reach for me. He just smiled softly and whispered, "I hope this storm never ends." When the snow finally stopped and the roads cleared, I felt something inside me tighten. The world was pulling him away from me. He packed his bag and stood in the lobby with this sad little smile. He said he lived in Denver and that he'd come back for me. And he did. Every 2 weeks he returned, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with pastries his mother baked. He learned how I liked my tea and how I tucked my hair behind my ear when I was shy. He met my parents and helped fix the fence in our yard. I thought he was the one. I truly did. About a year later, he asked me to sit with him by the small lake near the lodge. I knew something was wrong before he even spoke. His face looked tired, heavy. He told me he had been drafted. I felt the world tilt underneath me. I begged him not to go, even though I knew he had no choice. When he left, I held on to him like the ground itself was shaking apart. He kissed my forehead and said, "Ellen, I'll come back. I swear." He wrote to me from overseas. Long, beautiful letters filled with hope and fear and memories of the mountains he missed. And then one day, the letter stopped. Just stopped. No explanation, no goodbye. 1 month went by, then 2, then 3. I thought he had died. I mourned him like someone buried in the ground. Almost 2 years later, I received a letter from his mother. Not from him, his mother. She wrote that he had come home, but the war had changed him. He barely spoke, barely left his room. He didn't want me to see him like that. He thought he was protecting me by breaking my heart. But the truth is, his silence broke me in ways the storm never could. I cried for weeks, for months. I didn't know how to move on. Part of me stayed frozen in that winter. Years passed. Life pushed me forward whether I liked it or not. I finished school, became a nurse, and learned how to take care of people with invisible wounds, the same kind Samuel carried. I met my husband, Jonathan, at the hospital. A good man, gentle and patient. He didn't erase the empty space inside me, but he helped build a life around it. Sometimes love looks like holding on. Sometimes it looks like letting someone help you breathe again. We married, had 2 children, built a quiet, steady life. But a part of me always held the memory of that boy who walked into the lodge covered in snow. When I was 31, Samuel showed up on my porch. He looked older, thinner, shadows under his eyes. He apologized for everything, for disappearing, for shutting me out, for thinking he was protecting me by breaking my heart. He told me he still loved me, that he never stopped. And for a moment, I felt 18 again. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I had a family, a life. And he was still lost inside himself. I forgave him, truly. But forgiveness doesn't always mean returning. He cried. I held his hands, and then he walked away. That was the last time I ever saw him. People think love is supposed to last forever, but that's not always true. Some love comes into your life to change you, not to stay. Some love shows you what your heart is capable of, and then the world takes it somewhere else. Samuel was a storm in my life. Beautiful, powerful, unforgettable. Jonathan was my shelter, and I am grateful for both. If I could speak to the young girl I used to be, I would tell her this. Love doesn't have to last forever to be real. It just has to touch your heart deeply enough that decades later, you can still feel the warmth of it. That's my story.